All right, Shalom, Shalom. This is the brother Mayum coming at you from GMS Tampa Bay. First and foremost, I want to give all the praise and all the glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachah HaKodash. Double honors to the elders apostles of Great Millstone, and much blessing and salutations unto the Akim around the four corners of the earth, who are diligently pushing out this truth and his truth and sincerity. And I just want to do a quick video, going into this whole Iran deal, kind of going through, and the pride of these devils is that, they've actually done something. All right, but as we know, and as the scriptures say, this place is going to continue to fail. All right, pursuant to Isaiah chapter 19. All right, there ain't going to be no work that this place can do, or any deal, or any pact, or, any move that this place does is just not going to do, what they think is going to do. All right. It is not going to bring about a favorable change for America. Okay. This place is just going to continue to spiral down, out of control, and things are going to progressively get worse. All right. The Valley of Jehoshaphat, which is out there in the Middle East, that's where World War III is going to take place. And, this whole Iran deal being made, and now they got the Strait of Hormuz opened back up. Everyone knows it's not gonna last, man. There's even talks of Israel saying they're not gonna honor it. They're gonna continue, taking shots at Lebanon, which, you have the Hezbollah up there, which is a proxy of Iran. So Iran ain't gonna just sit idle while the small hats continue to do whatever the hell they want. And this is what the scriptures talk about. I believe it's in Jeremiah chapter 50, around the 45th verse. I could be wrong on the chapter, but where it talks about that the least of the flock shall draw thee out. These small hatters, which is the least of the nations, they're gonna draw a lot of people into a major conflict, man. A lot of people, believe this whole Iran, U.S., Israel thing to be a major conflict, but you're getting ready to find out what a major conflict is. The whole world is. Okay? We're gonna see in this lifetime, all right? Because a lot of people like to say, well, it's not gonna happen in this lifetime. No, it's gonna happen in this lifetime. We've already seen the pieces being set up. But in this lifetime, we're going to see the greatest conflict that's ever taken place on the planet Earth, man. A conflict that's going to be so terrible and so horrendous that nothing is ever going to be compared to what's getting ready to take place on a global scale. Not to mention the economic collapses that's going to be taking place. Okay, that's not even to mention that. It's not even mentioning the famines, the shortages. That's not even mentioning any of that. Which, of course, as we've seen with this whole Iran thing, how a conflict can lead to shortages. And the Lord has been showing a lot of y'all this exact, point with all the different conflicts that have been happening as of recently, within the last 10 years or so. COVID kind of showed you, what could take place with Esau just shutting down ports, and how that would affect, distribution of goods. That was clearly seen. Okay, and even with Iran, with this whole thing in Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, how oil prices were affected quickly, man. It wasn't months down the road. Okay, it was days, a week. And gas prices shot up, man. So this isn't something that, you know, it's just you can just brush off and, oh, well, it's happening over there. No, this is something that can affect you. Okay? When you have nations like Iran that the majority, for the most part, you know, the majority of the nations of the earth, you know, didn't believe that they could hold their own. For them to hold their own against the United States, that should put some fear inside of you Americans, man. That should instill deep fear to see that a nation as so-called weak as Iran is, right? Because they've been hit with sanctions throughout the years. All right, they supposedly don't have nuclear weapons, you know, but that, you know, the whole, because that's the whole thing that, you know, they can't get one, because if they get one, the world's in trouble. So they pushed the narrative that they didn't have one, but they were trying to obtain a nuclear weapon. Okay, but we know that Iran has allies that do have them. Okay. And it wouldn't be too far-fetched to say that Iran has been supplied with thermonuclear missiles. Okay? Iran's allies aren't going to wait till Iran gets hit with a nuclear missile for them to be like, okay, well, let's send our ally a nuclear missile. We have all these thousands of nuclear missiles. Let's now send them after they've been... No, they're not going to do that. They're going to have been preemptively supplied Iran in the case that they would be struck with nuclear missiles, which have been mentioned, you know, of it happening, either by the small hats and America. They both stated that, or have made the notion that, you know, dirty bombs or smaller nuclear missiles could be used, man. So, you know, these nations have geared up. They're not gearing up. They have geared up. This is Joel chapter 3. And I'll start at verse 9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. And see, what do you do when you prepare war? Well, you arm your battlements, man. You start sharpening up those spears. All right. You start girding up the armors. All right. You make the necessary preparations. You store the food for the soldiers. Okay, you prepare. You get ready to go into battle. And what have these nations done in these modern times? Well, food, you can get food, exported or imported, wherever it is that you may be going. So that's a little bit easier to deal with. But these nations have purchased weapons, man. Okay, they've enriched minerals to make these missiles. Okay, they've created, the chips necessary for these missiles. All right, and this is what we've been seeing happening. They bought the bullets. Okay, they've purchased the guns. Okay, it says, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. And one thing that you can take note of, that took place during this Iran war out here in the United States, you had, companies, I believe it was like either Chevy or Ford or one of these automakers that, pretty much told the U.S. government, like, hey, we'll set aside a part of our warehouses or of our production factories to, make, either, I can't remember if it was ammunition or military gear or whatever it was, but it was for the military for Iran. So these companies have shown you that they can stop, parts of production for whatever the product is that they make to supply the military with whatever they need. That's the beating of the plowshares and the pruning hooks man. That's what that is. Okay? And what did it go on to say? Let the weak say, I am strong. And see, these nations have done that. These smaller nations like Iran. North Korea. They've made themselves strong, either by themselves or through allied relationships that they have. This is how they've done these things. Okay, some of these nations like Iran, they've obtained particular or have gained control of particular regions that are strategic, and they use this to their advantage, man. That's one way of a nation becoming strong. Look at the Strait of Hormuz. Iran pretty much, set the world in shock. Had the nations and their leaders, completely, flustered at what was going on, man. At the drop of a hat, you could shut down this strait, this water passage, and the world would go into panic. That's control. That's power. That's what we've seen. Okay? You got China that has, I guess you could say the stranglehold over the semiconductor, chips. All right? Which is what America is trying to gain the upper hand over, because that's what their whole reasoning that's their whole reasoning of why they want to get up into Taiwan. And also the reason why they made that deal with Armenia. Okay, for resources. Okay? See, there's another reason why America went into Venezuela. Okay, to have a strategic advantage fuel-wise over these different nations. So everything that's been going on is the nations making chess moves, man. Okay, see, a lot of people don't think that this is World War III, but we're in it. The nations have been strategizing and making certain moves as they've been, moving along in this war. It may not seem like an all-out war, but that's exactly what's happening, man. Everything's a battle. Donald Trump trying to get into Greenland, that's another strategic move that he's trying to make. Remember, when it comes to warfare, man, you don't make unnecessary moves. If you make a move, it's because it's calculated. Now, Esau Edom is getting to a point, as the scripture says, that pride has deceived thee, in the book of Obadiah, to where he's become so proud that he is going to make moves that are unnecessary. He's going to make moves that are going to be detrimental to the outcomes of what's going to happen. Now, the beautiful part is, being in this truth, having the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, we know what's going to be the outcome. Okay? All we have to do, and this is why the scriptures tell us that not to take, matters into our own hands. All we got to do is sit back and watch. Watch things play out. Of course, the job of a prophet is to come out and to prophesy and to, do what we need to make our calling of election sure, as well as those of you that believe in the Lord. You have a duty as well. It may not be prophesying, but you have a duty as well to make thy calling of election sure. Okay? But, we have a great movie that's been set before us, and all we have to do is just sit and watch, man. Just watch this take place. Okay? This place is completely falling apart, man. Busting at the seams. And these devils, they come up with these agreements, which, the scriptures will tell you. Let's just get it. Yep, Psalms 55 and 20. This is an Edomite spirit, man. All right, this is an Edomite spirit. Psalms 55 and verse 20 says, "He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant." See, that's what these devils do, man. They break their own covenants. These peace deals that they do, They'll tell you, okay, we put them into effect. You know, the Strait of Hormuz is open. And then guess what? They end up bombing somebody or doing some shiesty shit that the nation they were at peace with, you know, becomes infuriated and now no longer at peace. Now we're back to sending missiles. Okay? That's the reality of the nature of Esau Edom, the so-called white man. That's his true nature, man. To be a backstabbing, you know, a devil. All right? It says verse 21, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. And this couldn't be more truer for these small hatters, man. You know, just because they're a different type of Edomite doesn't mean that they don't have the spirit of an Edomite in them. Okay? Their job, their work is clear and evident. Okay? The works that they work on the earth, man, is clear and evident that these people are complete demons, man. Devils. Okay? And the Lord is setting things up nicely for these devils to be brought down, to destroy themselves. Okay? It says, well, that was pretty much the point on that Psalms 55. You know, but let me read a little bit of this article I have here. All right, it's called The Calm in Hormuz Could Be Dangerously Brief. It says the latest U.S.-Iran deal announced on Sunday evening looks, and this just came out earlier, it looks like around 1 o'clock. It says, looks less like peace than a pause before the next crisis. See? So the jig is up on these devils, man. Everyone knows that shit ain't gonna last with these devils being, you know, being in power and trying to make peace deals with people. There ain't gonna be no peace as long as this devil's in rulership, man. That's what the world needs to understand. There is no peace if the so-called white man is in power. There will never be peace with this devil in place, okay, in the position that he's in. That's why the Heavenly Father is going to come to remove him from his place. And we see it happening. What else can this devil say or do to try to set himself up in a way that he can't be taken out? He can't do it. He can't do it. That's why in the midst of all this chaos that's happening militarily, he's secretly in the background trying to bring out a digital control. All right, because that's his last ditch effort to digitally control your ass so that you cannot buy or sell because you can't do the shit. And that's his last move, to try to gain control over the whole earth officially and forever. Okay, because his time is up. His time to rejoice is up, man. It's time for him to drink of that cup that he's given onto the rest of the earth, especially to the Israelites. It's time for this devil now to gulp it up, put that bottom of that cup to the, you know, point that bitch to the sky, man. That's what time it is for Esau. And he's fighting tooth and nail to try to avoid it, but there ain't no avoiding it, man. The words of the Heavenly Father are not going to return unto him void. Okay? So, you know, I'm going to go ahead and, you know, matter of fact, let me see. Let me read a little bit of this article. It says the news, which pushed oil prices down by 4%, appeared at first glance like a triumph of diplomacy. The U.S. and Iran have agreed to end the latest phase of their confrontation and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Donald Trump, never one to miss a dramatic flourish, immediately declared on Truth Social, ships of the world, start your engines, let the oil flow. And see, this is the thing, man, is America has failed and has been broken. All right, America at one point was referenced to as the hammer of the earth, according to the scriptures. America would go around setting people in order and nobody could do anything against them. Well, now America has lost that power as the hammer of the earth. So now these nations don't really give a damn. Okay? They don't stand in complete fear of what America could possibly do to them. See, back during the 70s, the 80s, you know, even the 90s and the early 2000s, America will roll up into your country and just completely dismantle you. And you couldn't do shit about it. Look at Iraq. Okay? Look at Panama. What they did out there, man, where they just swooped in the middle of the night on Christmas Eve or whatever the fuck, whenever the hell it was, and completely obliterated and took over a region, man. Same thing with Iraq. Iraq fell in like a week or so, man. If that. They weren't fighting for long with Iraq. And then the remainder of what took place over there was just occupation, man. But Iraq couldn't do nothing against America, man. But things have changed now. That ability of them to be a hammer and just bully everyone and set people in order, it's gone away. It's been taken from them. Okay? That's why, again, the scriptures say, you know, that pride has deceived thee, because this devil really truly believes that he's still somehow in power and that they're the greatest and strongest nation upon the earth. Like, come on, bro. Wake up. How do you not see that these nations are bucking up against you, man? But that's the pride. That's what has gotten you. Delusion. All right. But, you know, I'm going to go ahead and end it there. You know, brothers can look this article up. Like I said, it's entitled "The Calm in Hormuz could be dangerously brief." Okay? So, hey, Lord's will is edifying. I want to give all the praise and all the glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak, Badash. Double honors to the elders, apostles, a great millstone, and much blessing and citations to the Akim around the four corners of the earth, who are diligently pushing out this truth and this truth in sincerity. With that, I say shalom.